Welcome to the 2020 Aquatic Invasive Species Meeting. Jeremey Varley is presenting.
We'll go ahead and proceed with just kind of run through this short presentation, just to talk a little bit about this year's plans for Hayden Lake and what's going to be occurring here shortly this spring. Like Marianne said, I'll kind of wait to kind of go through some of the questions. I'll keep the chat box closed on my end, just so I can kind of get through the presentation, and we'll go to questions right afterwards, and then kind of go from there. So getting started. What we've got here is we'll just kind of go briefly overview of what happened in 2019, talking about some of the treatments as well as the early pondweed turion study that we did. It's still ongoing. And then talk a little bit about the spring treatment plan for 2020, and then follow up with some 2020 survey and treatment plans. So rolling forward, just kind of recap what happened last year. Last year we had the first treatment that occurred in April 24th. We had our first fluoridone treatment in that north arm, there treating for curly pondweed, Eurasian water milfoil, and it had 3 consecutive treatments. In May, one in May and one in June. And that was done by Aquatic, our statewide contractor at that time. Then moving on to later in the summer, we did do about 93 chemical acres in the southern portions of the lake. This was utilizing a new chemistry for us with our statewide contract for Spacellacor, again applied by Aquatic. And you see those treatment areas on this map here. They were kind of spread throughout portions of the lake where we had done our survey for Eurasian water milfoil and targeted those areas specifically during that treatment last year. We're encouraged by the signs from that. We did go back 22 days after treatment. So you go and look at those sites, just kind of see as things were wrapping up in the season, what was happening to that milfoil. And as you look on the map here, on these images here, you can really see right around the top of the plant where that meristem is, that it's not as green and viable like you normally see on the milfoil at the end of its life cycle, where that tip will be very, very green and start to grow some root fragments so it can break and spread more readily and easily. The product had shut that down. The pictures on the right and the left, you see a lot more of the stem swelling, especially where the internodes are, where the leaflets join the stem. It also looks really swollen. You really see it right in here. On the picture on the right, and that is very typical of what this chemistry does. You also notice some epinasty or twisting of the plant as it was breaking down, as that herbicide was destroying the connective tissues of the plant, causes it to kind of grow itself, that twisting form there. We were very encouraged by that. I'll talk a little bit more about that, kind of going back and reviewing those sites again this year. Moving on to kind of what we talk about the turion assessment. We wanted to go back to this 400 acre area, 364 chemical acres were applied. We're looking at that area to see what happened to the turions that were produced that year. We know it's a problem area that we've been repeatedly seeing consistent heavy growth in that north arm of the lake. So we have seen increased population density in early pondweed specifically. It really impacts that early season recreation ability in that north arm when that plant fully grows and fully fills that full water column. There's some pictures by Kim that were kind of showing some of that growth during that treatment time, where we saw the full water column grew all the way to the top. You can see the turions. That's those little pine cone-like structures. This is one of the main reproductive parts of this plant, where it acts almost kind of like, think of them kind of like seeds. You have this big seed bank in the bottom. What we wanted to try and do was we wanted to see how many turions or seeds were in the water body to kind of assess population-wise how many potential plants we have at the bottom of the lake waiting to grow. So we assigned a early pondweed study where I sent Kim Holzer and Tech 3 Paul Rhodes out to go and evaluate and see if they can assess how many turions in that lake. This is the point intercept grid that I sent them. The main questions we were trying to ask was we were looking at viable versus non-viable turions, and the easy way for us to tell was if they were squishy and fell apart, a little black in color, and it's really, really degraded. It's those non-viable. Anything that had any sort of structure to it was still hard. So those viable turions. We also kept all the samples that we collected, and Kim has been going through. And I say this turion sample has been kind of ongoing. We've been contained those turions we collected and are keeping them in water and refrigeration and trying to regrow them and testing their viability. What the results of that was based on the sonar grabs that we performed. We had to adjust where they were because it's all the way in that far north arm of the lake. We weren't able to get all the way up there just due to water access being shallow, so we kind of readjusted our point intercepts to try and encapsulate more of the lake. So you can see from this graphic here, you can see where kind of the highest number of turions came from, right around that Sportsman's Access area, and then kind of moving on down towards McLean's, and kind of as you get towards Henry, they kind of go out from there. We don't see any turions. The fun about doing this was basically what we found is an average per grab was about 2 turions, and when we're upon our grab, we're not getting a full sediment grab. We're just grabbing that top layer of sediment on the bottom, so we're not really getting the full thickness of that. Where turions can settle out all the way out throughout that whole hydrosoil, our dredge is not able to grab all the way down through that. So basically, when we're talking about on the surface, we have a potential of having about 34 million turions just across the surface of that area. And that's a pretty low estimate. It's not. We wanted to be very cautious with this number and putting that out there, but this is just kind of a low estimate based on kind of what we found. As we refine this treatment area and refine this survey, I'm sure that number it has the potential to go up. This is just kind of an initial trial of this survey that we did in 2008. This graphic here is just to kind of show where we expect those hot spots to be curly pondweed in that north arm of the lake. The yellow being the highest density, and going to the white where it's more sparse. So when you look at this map, you can really see that Sportsman's Arm is really where that highest area of impact is which is typically what we have seen growth throughout the year. So now looking at this spring, we wanted to kind of reassess and say, okay, we did the first initial treatment. Now we wanted to kind of take a minute to go back and look and see what's growing so you can get prepared to do another treatment. What's going on here is we just, we are planning a treatment. What we're trying to do is just target the optimal time of growth for this plant. We are targeting for the first spring treatment to be occurring about the week of May. So again, it's weather dependent and growing degree day dependent. We are going to be utilizing a different herbicide. We're not going to be using Ordo from last year. We are planning on using Noxolum, which is a different type of herbicide. We're targeting an application rate of about 10 parts per billion. We are working with the herbicide manufacturer to kind of really make sure that we are using the right prescription dose for this. So we will be kind of reassessing this. To get this treatment method done correctly, we do need to assess the benthic layer of the lake, and so and it's really dependent upon depth to make sure we get the right mix to hit that 10 part per billion rate for this product. Our new statewide contractor for this year is Clean Lakes, and they're on board, and they are going to be our contractor for this year, and they will be the ones performing this treatment. Like we all know, the curly pondweed is the target growth or the target plant for this treatment. However, if there's any growing milfoil at the time of application, during the time when that herbicide is applied, it will affect the irrigation water milfoil as well. So here's just a quick look of kind of what that treatment area is looking like. About 387 acres is what we're looking at prescribing. We are trying to refine this southern end of the lake, and that may change a little bit based on some survey results that we'll go over here in just a little bit. So the big question always comes with the herbicide treatments is what is the water use restrictions? So for this year, right now, there's this herbicide based on label. I'm sorry, my kids are here as well with me, so they're trying to get my attention. I apologize. So sorry about that. I apologize. Those being a parent. But anyway, with the drinking, with the water use restrictions, there's no drinking water restrictions with this product. There's also no recreation restrictions on this. There are some irrigation restrictions for plants, such as we can't, for irrigation for food crops, ornamental landscapes. until the level of the product in the water body is below 1 part per billion. So there's no, however, there is no restrictions for watering turf as long as the rates are below 30 parts per billion. And our target rate, again, is 10 parts per billion, so the likelihood of it being over 30 is very, very extremely low. We will conduct post-residue sampling at 3 events on 2 days after treatment, 14 days after treatment, and 28 days after treatment to assess those levels and make sure we get them below. And there'll be 4 main sampling locations for that. I mentioned the growing degree days and kind of what was the main thing that we're targeting with this. We want to try and target when it's between 200 to 250 growing degree days. Make sure we capture all the possible germination of curly pondweed for this spring season. And so we're anticipating that's kind of what we're saying that week of May 18th. We're kind of expecting it to be in that optimal range right around there. We'll be watching really closely. Here's just a quick snapshot of today. We're at 84 degree growing degree days for the Hayden area. So nice. And here's the methodology behind why we're doing that. So when you look at the behavior of curly pondweed, you have this overwintering growth. Slowly, once it comes out of winter, that's when we'll get this spring growth. And then in the early summer, we'll get the turion development. And the plants will drop out and then start regrowing again in the fall. So we're trying to target this first, this spring growth when all the plants have germinated that are going to germinate that this year. So, and then you can see below, I kind of made a little joke about the turions being like seeds. That's kind of the seed bank at the bottom here. As we continue these treatments, targeting that timing when we've had those turions germinate before they can produce additional turions and have that herbicide treatment take effect, we should start to reduce the number of turions available. And hopefully by year 3, we will reduce the amount of turions that will be present in the seed bank, so to speak. So we shouldn't have as many early pondweeds regrowing each year. That should greatly reduce the amount of plants in there. I don't think we'll ever have the ability to fully eradicate curly pondweed from Hayden Lake, but I do anticipate that we'll get the levels well below the ability for, well below an economic number where we're seeing them grow widely and widespread and get into those dense mats again. It will be there, however, but it's just not in the amounts that we've seen in the years past. Now what's going on for our survey and treatment plans. In addition to that spring treatment, we did conduct a spring survey for curly pondweed over the winter, or in the early spring to assess the overwinter presence. And then we will be conducting an early summer irrigation water milfoil, littoral zone survey, and post-treatment monitoring for 2019 subchlor treatment rates. And then based on those early summer surveys, we'll then take those results to start prescribing our treatments for the rest of the lake for irrigation water milfoil. It's anticipated that these treatment dates will be after the 4th of July weekend. We won't be doing anything before that. They'll all occur after that 4th of July. So here's the results of our spring survey for curly pondweed. And you can kind of see why we're reassessing this treatment area based on these initial survey results to say that this area closer down here towards Henry's Point and south of McLean's Bay, we're looking at we're not having any positive results of curly pondweed in there for this year. So we may shorten up our treatment area to encapsulate those areas where the curly pondweed is. So that's going to be happening here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll make an update to our website to make sure that information is accurate and shows that treatment area accurately. So, like I said, we're going to be focusing on this area here for some additional surveys just to make sure that if we don't need to treat here, we don't want to. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to go and survey some point intercepts along some of the treatment areas that we did in Hayden Lake for irrigation water milfoil last year with Cellacor, just to see, if we have any regrowth, and if so, how much. And we're hoping for good results. That is to come. So at this point, I'm at the end of my presentation here, and I will happily take any questions.